We've got a pretty incredible lineup here for our first morning session. Gary Cardone is in the house. Tom Luongo, BJ Dichter, and Charlie Shrem, please make your way on up to the stage as well.
Let's get this started. First, instead of introducing you guys, I'll ask you to introduce yourselves. We'll start here. Just, I guess, give a quick, 2 sentences, and then explain at the end briefly why you're a Bitcoiner.
Sure. My name's Tom Luongo. I'm the publisher of Gold, Goats, and Guns. You've hopefully seen me in a few dozen podcasts around the world. I also write for Newsmax at the Ultimate Wealth Report and Financial Intelligence Report. I've been in this, and to be honest with you, I read the Bitcoin white paper in June 2010. I mined one of the early blocks, and I wrote the first publicly available article for Bitcoin for Lou Rockwell back in July 2010, the ferment in alternative currencies, because I was already ahead of the curve then. Bitcoin is part of the solution.
Gary Cardone. Look, this is one of the greatest opportunities I've been speculating on. Opportunities like this my whole life. I've never seen one this big. I think Charlie will agree with me. It's a monster. Everyone's underestimating it. So I can't imagine not being involved.
I feel the same way. My name is Charlie Shrem. I've been in the industry a long time as well. I started the Bitcoin Foundation and had one of the early Bitcoin exchanges called BitInstant, where we had a lot of fun. Had a crazy career. Was Bitcoin's first felon as well. And then when I came out in the last 10 years or so, I've been investing on behalf of our local Tampa VC fund, Druid Ventures, and we're still investing. So please apply if you have any companies, seed investors. I have my own little stealth startup going on where I'm building some cool machines down the road. And I have a podcast called The Charlie Shrem Show. And just very, very accessible person. Feel free to contact me, and I'm always willing to help out.
Good morning. So my first coffee is just making its way in, so I'm not really all that awake. My name is Benjamin Dichter. I do a bunch of things. I produce a series of podcasts. I'm the CEO of a little startup in that area. I am now a journalist or a commentator for a number of publications. You might have seen some of my stuff in Zero Hedge. And I'm most known for the spokesperson and one of the leaders of the Canadian Trucker Convoy against the COVID mandates in 2022. And I think we can give some credit to those truckers in Canada for the reason we're not sitting around here with those stupid face diapers anymore. So I had all my accounts frozen, my bank accounts, credit cards, absolutely everything. Yes, we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start us off. So we hear the terms thrown around a lot in Bitcoin, like financial freedom and sovereignty. But in the context of Bitcoin, what is the difference between them, and what do they actually mean to you? I'll start off with Charlie.
Freedom and sovereignty?
Yep.
These are very interesting terms. When I was growing up, I grew up in a very religious community. And so I didn't really understand what freedom meant. And then I literally ripped the Band-Aid off one day and left. And then when I first got involved in Bitcoin, it wasn't really worth much, but it was a group of friends. So there was a freedom of being part of that community. And then eventually when Bitcoin started gaining some value, like a couple of dollars, and my startup was able to pay me a salary, and we had people, I was able to have that freedom of financial independence. But then I met my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and that gave me more freedom. But then I went to prison, so I lost it all. And I didn't really understand the difference between freedom and sovereignty. And I realized that sovereignty is something that can never be really taken away from you. It's something very internal. Because in there, they kind of try to rip your dignity out, and they take everything away. They try to bring you to your most lowest state possible, so you can just be like sheep. And the only way to maintain that is to remember that you have that sovereignty, you have that ability to time will pass, and they don't have that control over you anymore. And that's what it means to me. And so Bitcoin gave me all those really positive things in my life.
And feel free to jump in and riff on anything that interests you. But I guess along those lines, while we're talking about that, BJ, you brought up the Freedom Convoy, and talking about how you were able to bypass frozen bank accounts. What did that real world experience teach you about Bitcoin's role as a tool for liberation?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I got into Bitcoin, which was in 2015, I got into it because I was already primed, understanding central banking and monetary debasement. I guess I was a nerd when I was a teenager. And I went down that rabbit hole one weekend. I still remember it to this day, watching all the Bill Still documentaries on the history of finance. And so I've always been a techie. So for me, it was just a natural flow when Bitcoin came on my radar. I was like, oh wait, this might actually solve the problem. Great, it'll go up in value, blah blah. And then one day when we're in Ottawa and we're trying to communicate to our government that, sorry, you're not in charge. That's not the way this system works. I ran for parliament in Canada. I know how they think about our system behind the scenes. But one day I had left the hotel, gone to a friend's house, and because the government went full authoritarian, started arresting people. You saw the images online, beating protesters. And to my friend who gave me refuge, I said to her, let me at least buy you lunch. I got to do it was a Newsmax interview, I think. I got an interview in a couple of hours. Let me buy you some lunch. So I went to my Uber Eats and I ordered something for us. I think it was Greek food, if I'm not mistaken. And then boom, transaction declined. That doesn't make sense. Try it again. Boom, transaction declined. I thought, uh-oh, that's not good. So I opened my computer, my laptop. I logged on to my banking. I started with my corporate banking. And all of a sudden, my transaction history erased. And there was a message there that said, when you begin to use this account, your transaction history will appear here. Scotiabank deleted me completely. I wish that feeling on no one. I was more calm than everybody else because I had Bitcoin and I understood, okay, I have money off the system. But I was in a private conversation with Jordan Peterson, I think 2 weeks later, and I said to him, it was like living in the Middle Ages and being banished from the town square, left to rot in the forest. That is the modern equivalent of it. That is why Bitcoin is so important. So I've evolved from somebody who thought, oh, it's cool tech, this will solve our monetary debasement problem, to, no, this is essential insurance that everybody needs today. Financial exile is a good way to describe it, yeah, for sure.
No, I was just going to say, this is exactly correct. And it's one of the things that, when I first went down the Austrian rabbit hole back in, for me, back in 2002, 2003, 2004, the first thing I did was start looking for alternative solutions to money. By the time Bitcoin came around, I had already been in the Liberty Dollar and eGold and all these other things. And I had a little bit of ennui at that point, simply because it was I didn't watch any of them take off. So I watched Bitcoin with a very, very, very skeptical eye, thinking, well, this is cool. And I love the idea, but hey, I've seen these things come and go. But as it's evolved over the years, it has become something far greater than I literally ever would have expected. But from that perspective, yeah, you have to have money outside the system. And all I've ever said to anybody is that you should have a little bit of everything. You should have a little bit of physical precious metal. You should have a little bit of gold. You should have some Bitcoin. Hell, we were just having this conversation before the panel. You should have some guns that you're willing to trade. You need to have something that somebody out there will trade you for whatever it is.
Eggs, chickens.
I raised goats for 12 years too, and sold cheese at the farmer's market. I did the same thing because of.
I always think like that, like zombie apocalypse, post-Hurricane Tampa, like we're all trading each other for things.
Well, that's the interesting part. When you get back to sovereignty and freedom, the thing is that when you're a farmer, Well, you have your freedom. Well, you have your sovereignty, but you don't have your freedom because you literally get up in the morning and your life is the ducks, the goats, the chickens, the dogs, and that's your life. And it reminds you really quickly that we all may all be individuals, but it's the money and is about building and keeping the community together. You can't do it yourself. I've tried it. It doesn't work. I've lived that life. Don't do it. Have friends and always look at the potential friends and go, does he have post-revolutionary skills? We used to do that when we were much younger. We're like, oh, you're a doctor? Oh, cool. That's great. You're all
Post-revolutionary skills.
So along those lines, Gary, when you're trying to determine the right balance for Bitcoin in your portfolio, not just for a financial gain, but also a strategic, hedge against systems that we're talking about, what do you bring into those thoughts, and how do you analyze that on more of a broader market?
Well, if I could go back to the issue of freedom, I think freedom, like defining this word, would be really, really cool. And I suspect that your definition of freedom and mine are really different. So Bitcoin's helped me. Like, I did not come into this to get off the grid, to do the post-apocalyptic thing. I've done all that. I had plenty of gold, plenty of silver, plenty of guns, plenty of food, plenty of water. And if you're not planned and you're scared when the hurricane comes, it's because you didn't plan correctly. I'm never scared. Bitcoin's actually made me less scared. It's actually, I call it the anti-gravity machine, the anti-friction machine of humanity's desire to just drag you down into the abyss of nothingness. But freedom for me is the ability to say no to anyone, anytime. Stop messing with me, right?
Amen.
And the ability to say yes, which means that I need a lot of money, a lot of power. I look at money as power. Okay, I look at it as a massive volume of value should allow me to have more influence in shaping the future. It's not kinetic energy, but it's kinetic energy without negative impact.
it's potential energy.
Yeah, the way I use it, my friend, it is kinetic.
No, truly, it is. It is potential energy, and then you
no interest in just supporting Bitcoin forever and ever.
Great.
I actually want to use the Bitcoin like a wrench, right? A tool, one of those things. I don't even know. Yeah, there you go. There you go. See, Tom's smarter than me, so you can come up.
Yeah, money is like, it's not just purchasing power, it's power ammunition, but it's like time-locked value of today. But the dollar, as we saw it started to be used as a tool of of tomorrow, of paying for things for the future now, and we're all getting debased about it. So Bitcoin kind of locks that in.
Oh no, absolutely. Without getting too geeky on this, you have a way of
Not possible for you.
Yeah, I know. I know. My point is that, and I've kind of talked about this in the past, which is that you have a choice when on the demand side of money, when the economy is growing, when we want to do greater things, when we want to innovate or whatever, that there's a supply of money and then there's a demand for money. And we like to focus on the supply side of it because it's easy to understand. Oh, they print a bunch of money. Bitcoin doesn't really print, so there's a hard limit. So it should, numbers should go up, blah, 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 blah. But the question is, on the demand side, you have two choices, right? In order to maintain consumer sovereignty, you can either inflate and orders of magnitude to this side of the decimal point or to the other side. You have your choice of either increasing the resolution of the money so that it can resolve smaller comparisons between, for us to be able to put our wealth on the table and to do things to act as a medium of exchange, or we can inflate. Bitcoin represents a quantum leap in the ability to minimize the amount of numbers on the wrong side of the decimal place, the decimal point, because it allows for the stored wealth of the past to maintain its actual sovereignty of that number, whatever that is, and then deploy that in the future at ever increasing purchasing power. The Keynesians will tell you that that's deflationary. Yes, it is. That's a good thing. And the problem in the past has always been that there hasn't been enough money to keep up with the growth. But if the money is infinitely divisible, of course there's enough money.
So, Tom,
That was really brilliant. Wait, I just want to, because the dollar is not infinitely divisible.
Exactly.
But Bitcoin is. So if you take the value of money away from it and you look at Bitcoin being a system, there's infinitely enough. So you're removing a lot of these other conditions and levers.
That's exactly my point, is that the dollar or gold, why did the gold standard fail? The gold coin standard failed because you can't divide gold enough in order to liquefy this room.
Yeah, we tried that on the libertarian conferences. We'd go to these big campouts with thousands of people. And before Bitcoin existed, it was like 2011, 12, whatever. And you'd be trading little bits of silver and gold. And for buying food, they wouldn't accept any FRNs or fiat, as they called it.
Right.
And it didn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work because there's a physical limit to how much you can divide gold and silver. And silver is even worse because it tarnishes and blah, blah, blah. There's all this reality.
The truth is, even if you could do that, we're moving into a digital world. I look at the average age of people here, and a lot of the people, this cat over here with the silver hair, he's going to remember playing Grand Funk in the 8-track tape with that big box in his car. Cost $4.
Village people for me, but yeah.
Okay.
When I was 6.
Village people for you. Well, we're still, me and him are doing Grand Funk. Anyway, my point is that I can never imagine, I will bet you $1 trillion that we will never go to that 8-track tape player. That our ability to compress information is so different than it was in yesteryear. And we make the system really bad. Oh, gold's not working. Gold's not working for a digitized future. We're going to do microtransactions. Like, this is just too fast for the old world. Pencil. Imagine me coming in here and doing my speech on a stone cave wall in my blood. And let me draw you a picture of the monetary system. It's like we have other tools to use today. And we just need to understand we have tools today that are not going, the tools of yesteryear aren't going to work today.
So along those lines, as we're seeing something like AI that is, growing at rapid pace, beyond our beliefs, right? How do we, as Bitcoiners, protect ourselves from, indirectly building a digital prison around Bitcoin, right? Because with a fully transparent blockchain and with the right, AI tools, they could weaponize that, right? Tracing every wallet, every transaction, and ultimately try to, build a digital prison in our freedom tool. So what can we do to try to, stop that surveillance or, make sure that we don't, I guess, replace the system or redesign the system that we're trying to replace? Yeah. I agree.
It is a big problem. It really is. But the bigger question is, is will we allow it to happen? I mean, we have to decide for ourselves. And I've always said that, like, I love Bitcoin, but I also get accused of being a shitcoiner too, by the way, because I don't know that I necessarily believe in, I don't necessarily believe that when we get out of the current system that we're in today and we move to the next system, that Bitcoin will be, technology moves. The need, a thing, as Gary just said, like, technology is constantly shifting. I'm not against the idea of Bitcoin winning. I'm just not convinced that technology holds, always holds serve. So this is why I've always thought, well, what happens when they want to try and put us in a digital box and we're not talking about privacy coins? I mean, and then we get into that level of the discussion and so I always just remain flexible on this and agnostic about it. Love Bitcoin, love what it represents, love the fact that it's being moved in as hard collateral to the existing failing system. Think that's brilliant. Love it. Grand. Can it survive it? That's a good question. And by the way, the main reason, both Bitcoin's slowness as a blockchain settlement is similar to gold in that sometimes you don't want hot money flowing around infinitely. You want the money, you want the hard collateral of the actual system to not move. You want it to move at a different pace than the money that we're using to buy, cigarettes and hookers and blow with.
A settlement system. This is really, really, really different. Like for me, I would not approach this from the anarchist, hey, freedom money and keep me out of the prison. Like this is why I get back to the power. The more Bitcoin I have, the more power I have. Wow, there's 3,500 billionaires today on this planet. There's 340,000 ultra net worth human beings, 340,000, I think, $30 million or more. The prison people that like making these prisons and these constructs, they never anticipated there would be 3,500 billionaires. Average value is $5.5 billion, and 16 of them are in Bitcoin today. No one imagined that you would have freedom, true freedom fighters with tremendous amounts of bullets to shoot, to invest in the future. So I don't worry about the freedom. I worry about all my buddies getting super rich, and then we can fix the problem. You can't fix the problem broke. Can't do it.
You're absolutely right. We spend a lot of time testing. We spend a lot of time like thinking about if we were to ever get to this point where we are today, 16 years later. I mean, you talk about the older generations, the younger generations, there are kids 14, 15, 16 years old, and their whole lives, Bitcoin has always existed. To say to them, oh, Bitcoin shouldn't, why does Bitcoin have value? They'll look at us like, well, why not? My whole life it has existed. It has 16 years of true, beautiful price discovery. But you're right, it's the true wealth transfer. All those people buying Bitcoin, it creates ammo. And so when we thought, like, how are we going to convert people? How is Bitcoin good? Like, how are we going to get to this point? Someone said it's going to happen very slowly. You're going to have the son or daughter of a senator is going to start mining. The son or a daughter of a congressman or a congresswoman. It's going to happen like a very slow thing. That's how we'll infiltrate the government. That's how we'll infiltrate the financial institutions. It's going to be through those younger generations. And look, 16 years later, that's exactly what happened. But the older generations who had all the funds were really smart about it and started buying Bitcoin really fast. I didn't think Bitcoin would get to 100K, and I'm not even 40 yet. Like it's too fast. We're going to hit $1 million a coin in less than 10 years. We need more time.
I think just on the rate of change in the Bitcoin space and this fusion amongst politics as we're seeing right now. In 2015, we elected a communist in Canada, and I happened to be running for office in that election. And in that election,
Bro, we were doing that all over the world. Just wasn't
you're leading the way, man. Canadians lead the way with stupidity. Believe
His
me.
brother's a big Bitcoiner.
Well, you got to lead us something.
His half brother, yeah.
His half brother's a big Bitcoiner. My case in point.
But when I was running, when you run as a candidate, even in Canada, you have to fill out this 72-page novel they call an application, and they go through everything. Like Charlie would never get it, right? Everything in your life they tear apart. I couldn't tell anybody I was involved in Bitcoin, that I held Bitcoin. Because if I did, instant disqualification. And now what's happened? Now our politicians around the world are tripping over themselves to figure out how can they message to this growing voting bloc. That is a lightning speed of change that we're seeing. And I think that's also something to be celebrated. Like it's very funny. You see the back and forth in Bitcoin that some people are against institutions adopting Bitcoin. Some people are pro. I'm very pro because my boomer parents, or older than boomer actually, they now hold Bitcoin because the institutions that they believed in their entire life that allowed them to build for retirement now give it credibility. So now it's not scary anymore.
Bingo. And as a voting bloc, no offense to the boomers in the room, you're getting smaller. and it's just a generational change. Like what we've just talked about. And this is part of the problem with the existing system as it exists right now. Here we are, less than 48 hours after Iran and Israel sort of lobbing missiles at each other, in an orgy of, oh my God, the old system is going to fail. This is what this is about. I mean, at the highest level.
So
and
that's
guess
perfect. Can I ask you then,
Yeah.
like with everything going on and how, Bitcoin's becoming this asset class that, like BJ mentioned, politicians, central banks, they're starting to pay attention during the next, financial crisis that is pending, whether it's soon or later. Where do you see Bitcoin playing in the global markets?
The countries that are moving towards crypto, including Bitcoin, are the ones that will survive, and the ones who are currently hostile to it are the ones who are going to fail. That is only one reason why Europe is fucked. There's many other reasons for that, but this is because at an ethos level, they want control and they want no privacy. They want, as I've said many times, Minority Report with more Germans. Like, that's what they want, and they're walking lockstep towards it. And everything that we're seeing that's confusing in geopolitics and everything else are because they keep trying to hide the fact that that's where they are, and they're trying to constantly scapegoat everybody else. And currently, that's going to be either Iran or Israel or Trump or this or that or whatever or Bitcoin, and they always do it. But it's always the same thing. Their system of leverage and inflation and currency arbitrage has ended. And they refuse to admit that, they know it's happening, but they're refusing to go into that good night. That's what's going on, and we have to get through this. The most encouraging thing that I've seen in the last year is that someone finally sat Trump down and had the Bitcoin talk. It's that simple. And because it wasn't him, it was going to be Putin, because somebody in the bank, and in the financial institutions in Russia finally sat him down and had to talk with him. So there you are.
That's a really good point on that Trump got here. Somebody sat him down. I want to congratulate Bitcoin for sitting Trump down, donating $25 million to him in Nashville a year ago and getting his attention. This is exactly my point. Look, I gave 12.8 Bitcoin to Trump. People thought I was crazy. I did it through Bitcoin, the Bitcoin community, with Bailey. And think about that, right? I could have certainly gone straight to Don Jr., Eric, or Don Sr. and done Bitcoin direct and had a relationship with them. Instead, for me, I was like, I'm not interested in Cardone. I'm interested in Bitcoin. And I actually think that we have, to Charlie's point, he said, hey, we need more time. And a couple of my buddies started smiling. You guys don't have any more time. What has happened? I'm the youngest baby here in Bitcoin. Came in this space in 2020, saw it in 16 and 18, and it was a carnival, an absolute fucking circus. There was no way, dude. Y'all did a horrible job marketing, okay? You just didn't understand your targeted market. And I got to tell you, I'm not being offensive, okay? But right now, we need to be careful not to miss our targeted market. These people do not care about self-custody. I know you guys don't like that, but the families that are coming through this, I do these events 3 times a year, big families, and my whale OG buddies in Bitcoin, they walk away from these events after 2.5 days going, oh my God, man, it's a negative to them. See, we have to get these people on an escalator if you want them. I actually want them here. They're coming whether you want them or not. They're coming here because they're coming through corporate strategies. 300 of the Fortune 500 companies are right now actively looking at a Bitcoin strategy. Now, 250 of those to 290 are broke companies. I mean, they are dying companies, right? So I just think that you need to look at this as once the dam has broken, Bitcoin is now on there is no failure, never of a $2 trillion industry. Never in the history of mankind has a $2 trillion anything failed. Can't say that about Ethereum. Can't say that about Doge or Solana.
Sure.
Like, it's $2 trillion. Okay. And the real estate market, just to give you a perspective, is 330. So everybody and their brother wants a piece of this action because it's performing so well. And to me, the performance, like you said, I think the greatest amount of money that's going to be made is in the next 4 to 8 years and retained. The greatest amount of money ever made in Bitcoin is going to be made in the next 4 to 8. You're not late.
Honestly, Gary, thank you.
Amen. Oh, let's go make some money. Yeah.
No, I mean, I was making these points to my patrons back in 2017, 2016, or 2017, 2018. I was saying, look, you realize this is the opportunity for the greatest wealth transfer from them to us in the democratization of wealth. Wealth comes first, and then you have power. And that's how we're going to rebuild the world. How are we going to rebuild Main Street in America? We're going to do it. We're not going to do it with JP Morgan. We're going to do it with your local credit union. Your local credit union needs to have a treasury market that's stable, because that's the world we live in today. Guess what creates stability in the treasury market? Bitcoin stable coins that trade against Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the collateral, tethers the hot sink, or pick your stable coin of choice, your hot sink for the treasuries on the other side that represent the dollars that are actually being used out in the world. It's absolutely necessary, but you hold the collateral. You hold the gold, you hold this Bitcoin, you hold the hard collateral, the real M0 of the world to get really monetary geeky on you. That's what we do. And we use that as a means by which to overthrow these people and to replace them, because they're going to get replaced.
So if everybody out here, there's definitely some people that are all the way in on Bitcoin. There's some people that are probably beginners. What's an action step now that we're in the last couple minutes? What's an action step that somebody in the crowd could take today to take back their financial freedom, their sovereignty, and really take action?
Well, if I can just give an example, we all have our own social networks and people we know in business, family, friends, whatever. It starts there, but then you can look beyond that. So for example, last summer, I have a very close friend who started a new provincial conservative party in Canada, okay? And they were having their first convention, and these are people who came from the conservative party like I was, because they've gone very to the other side. So what I did is I drafted a Bitcoin policy, 7-point policy, self-custody, the right to own Bitcoin. I also addressed our AML laws in it, because what the hell, why not? And 6 months later, after we refined the policy, I showed up at their convention and I argued the policy to the floor, and I used the freedom principles of what we went through in Canada. Now, the boomers would have been the younger people in this room. Politics, as you know, everybody's 80 and asthmatic. I got an entire convention floor of people in that age demographic who know nothing about Bitcoin to vote in favor and to pass it overwhelmingly. So it's the first political party in Canadian history that in their policy guide has self-custody and Bitcoin on the books, which means that is forever going to be part of their party platform. So you got to look at yourself, your world from a systems view, and see what's the cog in the wheel that I can affect beyond just my family, my friends, and just focus on that one area. And if we all do that, that's going to accelerate this already rapid change of Bitcoin.
Does anybody else want to add to that?
Buy Bitcoin. Buy it today.
Buy
it tomorrow. Buy it the next day. And call me up when you decide you're going to stop buying it, and I'll tell you buy it some more. This opportunity is a once in a century event. Like, I don't know what history people have read.
Millennium.
Yeah, it's like, to miss this. I mean, this guy's been around forever, right? He can tell you so many stories of how they mismark the market. Like, everyone has underestimated this market. You always underestimate disruptions like this. You overestimate the time You underestimate the time that it takes, and then when it happens, you grossly underestimate the impact. And Donald Trump, whether you like it or not, and the universe or whatever's happening, dude, it escalated this thing 4 to 5 years in advance. It literally moved everything. This should not be happening right now. Okay, had Trump gotten in 2020, we would not be here today. Like, think about that, right? That's really very interesting. So we have so much regulatory policy behind this, which is really, really all the friction that was there. I know we're out, but it's gone, man. It's gone.
We needed those 4 really bad years in the previous administration to really like be like, what the hell are we doing here?
Well, awesome. Everybody give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Gary, Charlie, BJ. Thank you.